Oh, it's recording now?
Does it say record right there? Look and see.
No, sir.
Yep.
All
On
right.
that part, and let's do this
So
one
we
too.
need to put a mic closer to them. We first want to focus on you all's background. We want to know about the development of your political consciousness, and how you all got to Nebraska, those particular incidents that led to your political consciousness, and bring us up to when and why you joined and formed the Black Panther Party. So with that in mind, could you talk about your background, your birth, your family, and your community activism prior to joining and forming the Black Panther Party in Nebraska? And we'll start with one and then go over to the next person. Y'all go ahead.
Yeah, I will go first for a change.
Can you also give me the date of birth as well and then bring us up?
Yes, I was born in Omaha, Nebraska, 1st November 1944, the day after Halloween. Also, All Saints Day, for his benefit. And I was born in Logan Fondell Projects during the period where segregation was very rigid. I never knew the extent of my world was just a little small 4 or 5 block area. And I can remember the very first time I ventured half a mile away from my house. I was in totally unfamiliar territory. I panicked. I got lost. I thought I had slipped into the Twilight Zone or something. You know the Twilight Zone wasn't heard of back at that time. But I panicked, and I finally saw him standing on the sidewalk crying because I didn't know where I was. And I saw a friendly face, the maintenance man. He came up to me and asked me what was wrong. Man, I'm so glad to see him. I still remember that. And he came to my rescue. I told him I was lost. And he said, "Oh, come on, I'll take you home." And he walked me from that spot to about less than a quarter of a mile. And then I started looking around. I said, "Oh, I know where I am now." You know, and that's how small our world was then.
How old were you?
Well, at that time, I was almost 5 or 6 years old. Yeah. And my father worked for the railroad. My mom was a housewife, taking care of my younger brother and sister. And I developed an appetite for reading. Because they wouldn't let us go down to the Blacks couldn't go to the Omaha library, so they had a bookmobile that they used to drive around to the projects. Every time we come by, I check out a couple of books. I still look for a book that got lost. I know they hadn't forgotten. You know? Yeah, I know. But going back, some of my early recollections of racial discrimination was I had a play to attend to. Actually, I was one of the characters, and I don't remember what the play was, but this is when I was in Tech Junior High. And one day I needed a haircut. I needed to get it before the play. So Mama gave me 50 cents to get a haircut. I went to school, and there was a little white barber shop right across the street from Tech, downhill, a little bit closer to 30, about half a block. I went in there, and this old thin-lipped white guy with big glasses on his face, gray hair, partially bald, looked at me and said, "What are you doing in here?" I said, "Sir, I'd like to get a haircut." He said, "We don't cut nigger hair here. Go down and see, go back down and see Ernie Chambers." And so I just, I went on to school and went without a haircut. And I can remember when I was 8, I'm kind of going back. When I was 8 years old, my father died. And what happened was, as a child, he used to teach me to read and recognize different pictures and tell me what they were. And every day he worked on a railroad, hated his job. Every day he would come home just furious from all the crap he had to eat at work. But he was a Pullman porter. And every day when he would come home from work, we would greet him, and I would sit down on the floor between his legs while he was, reading the newspaper. And I noticed that everybody else would clear the room except me. And So I would sit down and I would sit on the floor between his legs and I would look up at the newspaper and, and I would try to read a few words and he would help me and he would point out different objects, like this is a chicken and, et cetera. And one day I misjudged his mood. I came home, sat down in a chair, everybody cleared the room but me. And I sat down on the floor, put his leg just as he grabbed the newspaper and he slapped me hard upside the head. He said, "Get the hell out of here." So I ran upstairs in my room crying. And I can remember mumbling to myself, I don't think there's a kid in the world that can say this at one time or another. I hate you, I wish you was dead. So that was on a Friday night. The next morning, when I woke up, I heard a lot of voices downstairs, real soft voices. And I could smell hair frying. And so, got cleaned up, went downstairs, and I saw a whole bunch of people, all relatives and neighbors, sitting around the living room. And I spoke and wondered where Mama was. Somebody said she's in the kitchen getting her hair done. And as soon as I turned into the kitchen, my Aunt Alice was straightening her hair. And her exact words were, "Butch, honey, your father's dead. You're never going to see him again." She hit me with it just like that. And so I was stunned. I said, "What happened?" She said, "He drowned in the Carter Lake last night." So I just ran back upstairs, and that's the last I can remember. I was so stunned and traumatized by that, because I thought I had caused his death by making that wish. And that stayed with me up until I truly believe I was responsible for his death up until I was in my early 40s. Yeah, I'm 66 now. Yeah. Yeah, and I thought I was going to lose my mind because I wanted to talk about it and nobody talked to it. I just couldn't express myself. And we had an uncle. If it wasn't for my close knit family and my uncles, my father had
before.
Yeah.
And what did you do after you graduated from high school?
I told my mama that I wanted to, until I figured out what I was going to do with myself. I just go into the Army. So I tried to get into the Air Force. Not Air Force, but Marines. And they rejected me because I had a mild little fungus infection in my ear, which runs in the family. In fact, I have it today. I'm working on it. And so I wouldn't join the Army. They took me. So I spent the next 6.5 years, part of it in Germany, a year in Vietnam, the last couple of years in Fort Benning, Georgia.
What year were you in Vietnam?
65, 66.